Again, this is for school production records. We're going to go over kind of how to fill them out. And I have Karen John with me today. She's helping out with the chat. So if you guys do put anything in the chat, Karen John's the one who will be answering those questions for you. I appreciate her very much for helping me out because we do have a pretty good group today, and it just takes it a little bit longer if I have to do answering all the questions and also be doing the presentation. So she'll be answering the questions for us as I go through. So again, we're going to be talking about production records. We're going to be talking about production records for meals, and we're also going to talk about how to fill out the salad bar production record. Now, if you are not for sure where to find this, you can find it in the compliance document or into our training manual. It's in the cafeteria manager section, and that's what the CM stands for. So on CM 71, we have a blank copy. On CM 72, we have our example. And then it's the same thing with the salad bar. On page 75, we have our plain or just our blank, and then on page 76 is our example for the salad bar production record. And again, if you don't have a copy of the manual, you can always go to CARS into other documents. You do not have to log in to have access to other documents, and you'll scroll down. We have a manual, our training manual. It is in there electronically. As a matter of fact, so the ones that you got, of course, that are the manual, the one that if you printed it out, we did update that in December. There was just some minor changes. I forget that we used to print them out for you guys. Forgot we don't anymore. But we did do a little update. We had some little tiny things that need to get changed. We did do an update in December. It's nothing like major. We would have let you know if it was major changes. So again, you can go out there at any time and print that out. So food production records, why kind of do you have to do them? Well, it is required by USDA. This is something that is a requirement that they have. It does document what you did serve. It documents the number of meals served. It documents all the components that were offered. It documents the quantity, and it shows if you had anybody else eat, like any adult meals or contract meals. And this is, we do look at this during review. So if you do not have these, it's a big problem for the review. Food production records must be done daily. So you need to make sure you have them, because again, if we come out and you have no records, it becomes a problem. And people are forgetting. I thought I would make this plug in for our consultants. I've been talking to several of them about I know we're doing SSO right now. So you do realize that we heard someone tell us, well, we're doing SSO meal patterns. That doesn't exist. There is summer feeding meal patterns, and then there's school meal patterns, and SSO falls under the National School Lunch Program. So if you are on SSO, the seamless summer, then you have to be following regular school meal patterns just like you did before. If you're under summer feeding right now, you can do summer feeding meal patterns, but if you are on SSO, you are required to do the National School Lunch meal patterns. There's no such thing as seamless summer meal patterns. That doesn't exist. Number two, I understand that we're not doing school reviews, but we are coming out and doing TA and looking at information. From what I understand, a lot of people are not keeping any records because they think that they don't need to. That is farthest from the truth. You are always, if you're going to be on our program and if you claim meals, you have to keep documentation. Unless you don't plan on claiming, that's the only time you don't have to keep any documentation. At all times, your documentation validates your claim. And if you're not serving meals or following the meal patterns, you're not supposed to claim those meals. So again, I just want to reiterate that because I've heard a lot of complaints from our consultants, people not having records, people not doing production records, people not doing the right meal patterns, not doing counting and claiming correctly. Nothing has changed. You're just allowed right now for COVID to be following the SSO meal patterns and claiming everybody for free. Other than that, nothing has changed. You have to have a meal counting and claiming system. You have to have production records. You have to be meeting meal patterns. Nothing has changed in that regard. So I just kind of wanted to say that because I've been hearing a lot of frustration from consultants about what they're seeing in their territories. Okay, so back to production records. Now, all columns must be completed, I'm going to go through each column about what it is. There's only a couple of columns that are not required, but for the most part, everything has to be filled out on the production record. You do have to fill one out for each meal type. So for breakfast, for lunch. Hello. Oops, hold on. Let me get you. I think we lost one of our consultants. I'm going to mute somebody. Okay. If you do have any questions, if you can put that in the chat, that would be fantastic. And let me give Karen John, I think she got kicked out. So she's back in here now. Okay, so with the production records, it's per meal type. You do have to let us know if you're doing offer versus serve and what grades are participating in that production record. So a lot of times you're going to do them per cafeteria. Or everybody who's eating at that site. You do have to have your meals. There's a meals served box, your menu or your food item used, and any recipe number, product brand, and any CN number. So again, it is required that the whole document be filled out. You can't just partially do it. And we do see that quite a bit, that only people are filling out a small part of it. And we actually need all columns filled out. There's a couple that you don't have to do, and I'll show you which ones. But for the most part, everything does have to be filled out. On the production record, we also need the total quantity of food prepared. We need the meal contribution. That's very important because there's some items that could be a vegetable or a meat. We need recipes, CN numbers, and or product formulation statements. We need grade groups and planned reimbursable meals served, planned serving sizes, planned number of servings, a la carte adults and contract meals, and any leftovers. Everything needs to jive. So you also need to include any extras that you do. If you have any condiments, anything like that. The reason why is because we really haven't had to do a whole lot of nutrient analysis, but we still may be doing one. We have to know in that nutrient analysis, anything that you serve has to be into the nutrient analysis. So if we do a nutrient analysis, everything has to be in there. Condiments, it can go towards your sodium. Actually, sometimes condiments can help with sodium. It can help with calories, good or bad. It can lower your calories. It can up your calories, but we have to know everything that you put out on the line that those kids consumed. Because if we have to do a nutrient analysis, we have to put that in. We need total amounts of food planned and what you actually served. Again, we need brand name, CN labels. We need identification of any commercially prepared food products, documentation of a la carte, adult, and or non-reimbursable meals. And we need to know, like, a central or base kitchen should keep the records for the amount of food shipped to each satellite. So again, we use these records for your review. And not just that, but these records, they just help you as well. We understand at the very beginning of school, and especially with everything with COVID, numbers fluctuate. I know with COVID, they've really fluctuated, but I understand, like, say this year, your kids love spaghetti. And then next year you have it, your kids don't like spaghetti at all. But how do you know that? You look at your past production records. It lets you kind of see what kids are eating, what they're not eating. It also lets you know, say, if because of COVID, a lot of times people are having a lot of substitutes into the kitchen, helping because of it. You need your production records to show what to cook, how much to cook. It's like a recipe all in itself. So if you're saying that you served 100 kids at your school and you open 4 number 10 cans of green beans, that helps them prepare for that meal service by going back and looking at production records. So how is this information used? It is a guide of, like, what recipes and foods to use or to produce any menus. It can determine the amount of food needed the next time a menu is served and to reduce plate waste. And it does help us again with the reviews. So, and not on top of that, again, it is required by USDA that you do have production records. So this is what a production record looks like. This is the one that we have in our book. If you may be using a more of electronic version, if you use, say, like NutriKids or any other of those systems, but they do need to have all the same columns or give us the same information that we have in here. So we're going to go through this production record column by column of what needs to go where. And what's required, because mostly all the columns are required columns and people are leaving out a lot of steps. They're only filling out certain columns. So right here, we'll have the site name and the date. And then you also have to tell us, is this production record for what we're looking at, is it for lunch or breakfast? You cannot combine them. They have to be separated. Lunch for one, breakfast for another. Then you indicate at that site if you participate in offer versus serve. And if you do have high school kids, if you have high school kids that are eating there, offer versus serve is required at high school. So just a reminder, if you have high school kids, it is required. And I'll have Karen, because she's in the field. I'm not, and I kind of pay attention to the COVID stuff. I kind of don't. So Karen can tell you if there was a waiver for that for high school kids. I think there was if you did grab and go, but I can't quite remember that. But on a normal school year, which it looks like right now, we're going to go to a normal school year come July, that if you have high school kids, they are to participate in offer versus serve. And then also, and then on that column is you tell us what grades are participating. And at this school, we're using this school as a K-8 school or a K-12, and they eat at the same site. And 2 through 12, second grade through 12th grade are the ones that participate. So when we come out to look and do a review, we already know that if you have pre-K, kindergarten and first grade, that they're straight serve, that they're not doing offer versus serve. So we do have to have that information. And these slides, I sent an email out yesterday. If you may have got an email with the slides in it. If you do not, these slides are located in CARS, other documents under training, handouts, and Q&A, and they're going to remain out there indefinitely. So you can always go out and pull these if you need help with your production records. So next we have columns A, B, and C. So in column A, you list the menu or food item that is going to be used. In column B, list the recipe number, brand, product brand, or CN label. We do need to have that information. And then list the total quantity that you are going to prepare. People forget this step. We see this a lot. So right here, like they're telling us that they did 3.5 pounds of broccoli. That's how much they prepared. They prepared 9 pounds of mashed potatoes. We have to know the overall. Now we understand that, for instance, if you're doing offer versus serve, let's say it's the mashed potatoes and you are preparing 9 pounds and in the middle of service, you did not have enough. So you're doing more. Just try to make sure you can fill these columns out ahead of time before you start serving. You may have to adjust what you prepare because I've been at schools where in the middle of meal service, you're having to open up number 10 cans, or maybe you're having to open up, say you ran out of green beans, or in this case, broccoli. You ran out of broccoli, all the kids wanted broccoli that day, and you just go and open up green beans for the kids to eat. So just make sure, because maybe you have more kids eating than intended, or it was just really popular that day and your broccoli's out, so you had to have a vegetable on the line. Just add broccoli to the bottom or someplace at the end of your service and how much you opened up somewhere on the production record, because it was served that day and we do need to know how much was served. So column D, E, and F. So D is another required. A lot of people too, they tend not to fill this out. We need to know if it's a meat alternate. Are you counting it as a fruit vegetable? Is it an extra? And as you can see in the example here, we do have some X's, and those X's refer to as an extra. It's not meaning anything, but it was items served. So those are items that would go into a nutrient analysis if we needed to do one. Again, we have food items like beans that could be a meat or it could be a vegetable. We have to know, and again, you can't make them both in the same meal service. So that's why it's very important that you fill this out. And I understand it's like, well, hello, it's a green bean, it's a vegetable, but we still need you to put that in there. Not just that, but sometimes it gives us a good idea. We have seen it where people have been putting things wrong. So it does let us know that you understand the meal patterns and what you're counting that item towards. So now E and F, we do have these columns on our production record. However, if you are required to keep time and temp, It is not required that it be on our form. We did that to make it a one-stop shop for you. A lot of schools put it on a separate piece of paper, and that is completely okay. But again, you are to take temps twice per meal service. And a lot of times people do it right before the meal service starts. And then a lot of times if you have a break, they'll do it in between the break, between like classes, usually like kind of halfway through. Say maybe you have your elementary school coming in and then you have your high school kids coming in later. It's a really good time to temp it. It is required again from the health department that you do temp twice per meal service. Last I was told, that's why we have 2 columns here. Again, it's not required, and I see very few put it on our form. I see most people put it on a separate form, but make sure you are taking that. That again is a health department requirement. It does not have to be on our form, but you do have to have it someplace if it is not on our form. So we have columns G, H, I, in the pre-K CACFP. Now, this is where you may not have to be required to do all columns. And the reason why is because we created this form so you can fit everybody you needed to on one form and not have to do 2 if you had one eating site and you are pre-K all the way through high school. The only columns you fill out is per grade group. So you may have a K through 5, a 6 through 8, a 9 through 12, and a pre-K through CACFP and CACFP. Now, you may have, like in this situation, which is most common, you may have a K through 8 and 9 through 12. And that is common too, or you just may have a K through 8. Or you just may, you have a K through 8 elementary, you have a cafeteria there, that's where they ate. You have a high school, they have their own cafeteria there, that's where they eat, and that's fine. But the reason we did create this form the way we did is for our small schools, because we have so many of you, that you can put everything on one form. Now, if you are doing K through 8, now say you're writing on the production record K through 8, and you are serving your 7th and 8th graders a little bit more food, then you need 2 columns, because you're really doing at that point K through 5, and you're doing 6 and 8 a little bit different. If you are changing anything up, you do need to have the 2 columns. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out there, because we have some people that were like, well, yeah, I do K through 8, but then I give the older kids a little bit more food. Well, then you're doing K through 5 and 6 through 8. You're doing 2 different meal patterns there. So remember, G, H, and I are the exact same columns, and you may not be filling all of them out at your particular school. It just depends on what you're serving at that site, that cafeteria site. But let's go through column G. So this is the K through 8 site. You make sure you put your grade group there, because we need to know what grade group is eating at that site for that production record. Then it says at the top, planned number of reimbursable meals for students. So this is about again, this can be done before the meal service. How much food are you preparing, and how much do you plan on giving them? So you can prepare the planned serving size. Again, the planned serving size is how much you're going to put on the plate for that kid, that age. And then the planned number of servings is how many you think are going to go through the line and take that item. So this, again, G can be filled out before you even start serving. Because in this case, they already know that they're going to give the K through 8 kids 5 chicken nuggets, and that they're going to give them a half a cup of vegetable, a 1/4 of a cup of fruit, as you can see here. And then they're telling us they think 250 kids are going to take the nuggets. They think 250 kids are going to take, I think that was broccoli. They think 150 kids are going to take the 1/4 of a cup item. So that is a telltale sign too for us that you are properly doing offer versus serve. Because if you are doing offer versus serve, you know that kids are going to be declining certain food items. Most of the time, your main dish or whatever, like your chicken nuggets, you know the kids, that's why they're coming through the line. So they're all pretty much going to take that. But the other items is what might be offer versus serve. And just to throw this out there, while we're talking about offer versus serve, milk, when you do offer versus serve, kids do not have to have milk. It's one of the items that they can decline. We are wanting to have an offer versus serve training. We've been planning for a very long time. It's kind of one of the things we're doing in between everything else. We're going to have it for sure on Next Thought. Okay, Edge, I'm sure I will do it Zoom first. So be aware, we do plan on doing an offer versus serve, but a lot of times, especially teachers, when we're there to do a review, we'll see there a teacher handing every kid a milk saying, no, you have to have this. Milk is not a requirement with offer versus serve. They can choose to take the milk. They can choose to decline the milk, again, when you're doing offer versus serve. But again, that's how we can tell if you had, so for this, in this instance on G, column G, they had 250. If it said 250 all the way down, then that tells us that you're not doing offer versus serve. Because, I mean, I understand when it's the first of the year and you don't know what the kids are going to take and what they're not going to take. But when you're really in the swing of things, you know what the kids decline. So if those numbers are the exact same all the way down, then we know that you're probably not properly doing offer versus serve, that you're doing straight serve. And again, with this, we have column H, and that's what they plan for the 9 through 12. So again, it is planned meals, the total number of kids to go through the line, and what's your planned serving size that you're going to give them for that grade group. That's what is in column G, H, and I. And then also we have the pre-K and CACFP. So if they're on that meal pattern, we just put that in there for you. You don't have to tell us the grade group because we put that on there for you. So this is always kind of a topic of discussion of how to fill out your production record for high school kids when it comes to the fruit and vegetable. Now, some of you do 2 different vegetables or 2 different fruits because it is a requirement that the high school be offered a 1 cup of fruit or vegetable. They can decline half of it, but they are to be offered a full cup of fruit and or vegetable. Now, some of you offer like 1 fruit and the kids can have, say, 1 scoop or 2 scoops because you have a half cup serving. So how do you fill out your production record? I'm going to kind of go back a little bit and show you. So let's look at H, K through 12. So in this situation right here, if you look at kind of looking at the production record, I can tell they probably did 2 vegetables and 1 fruit. They put 1 cup. So you do need to put, if you offer them 1 or 2 scoops, and that way they get a half a cup or 1 cup of the same vegetable or fruit, you do need to list it on here as 1 cup because that is the required serving size. Now, again, you may be serving it out in half cup servings, but you just need to tell us in 1 cup, you're doing offer versus serve. So in this situation, they did 65 1 cup servings. They may have actually done 130 half cup servings. But if you are a high school, it is required that you do offer 1 cup of fruit and or vegetable. And if you are only serving 1 fruit, or if you're only serving 1 vegetable and you're letting the kids take 1 scoop or 2 on your production records, it needs to say 1 cup because that is the required serving size, even though when they come to the line, they may actually be only taking a half a cup. So I just wanted to reiterate that on how do you fill out your production record when it comes to the high school kids. So then we have column J and column K. So column J is how many are you expecting to serve if it's a la carte, adults, or contract meals. And in this situation, they're doing a flat 25. And then at the bottom, it's more, you can see a little bit more offer versus serve that they may do. I'll show the whole production record here in just a moment, but you may be doing contract meals. So the 25, to me, by looking at this, it looks like there's 25 contract meals. And then at the bottom is for the adults that are eating. And it does show like what they would pick and choose when they were going through the line because of offer versus serve. And then column K is for any leftovers or any comments. And just be careful when you have leftovers. So say you do lasagna, and with the lasagna, you say that you made 10 pans and you have 1 pan left over. Please tell us the size of the pan because every pan size is different. But do leave any comments and what you plan to do with the leftovers if you have them. And then after the meal is served, you're going to go up to the top of the production record. This is after the meal is served. You're going to put in your actual numbers. So everything below is what you're preparing for. But on the production record in the top corner at the end of the meal service, you're going to go back and ask whoever does your computer system or whoever does your system, how many pre-K went through the line, how many K through 8 went through the line, how many 9 through 12, and that will give you your exact numbers. And we do have to have exact numbers. When we do a nutrient analysis, we go by exact numbers, not your planned. So everything in the body, again, is your planned. And at the very end is you put your actual total served, and you do that after the meal service is ended. And a lot of people will forget to go back and put that in. Now, if you want to ask the person who does your edit check, they can easily get this information for you, but you do need to have actual numbers. We do need everything on that production record. So this is a required form, just a reminder. And unless you have a form that, if you have a form that has, you're using something different, like you're using something from NutriKids, you're using something from somebody else, make sure it has all the same information ours has on it. If it does not, you need to get approval from your consultant to use that form. So again, all applicable forms, columns must be filled out. The numbers located within the production record at the bottom are your projected numbers. How many kids do you think are going to eat? But after the meal service is ended, you need the actual numbers of children, adults, and contract meals. So, and that goes in that top right-hand corner. So just make sure everything below, you can fill all that out beforehand, all the bottom part out before you start serving. Now, again, just make sure if you have to up anything, or again, I was at a school district years ago, and they did not actually have a vegetable on the line, and I made them put the one out, or I was have to take back every single meal for that day. And they opened one number 10 can of green beans. I'm gonna just open up one number 10 can because you're doing offer versus serve. And what they were having that day for the meal, we did not think they would eat the green beans because they were having pancakes. And they end up going through 12 number 10 cans of green beans. So make sure if you do open up anything more, or you have to put out additional food items, make sure that you put that on your production record. And if you have days, and you may not be doing it right now, but I've been to several schools where, like on Fridays, they put all the leftovers from the week and serve it out on Friday. Make sure you put that on your production record. When you put leftovers and what you're doing with them, serving it out on Friday with your leftover, and tell us how much leftover, because again, we have to have that information if we do a nutrient analysis. If we do a nutrient analysis, anything that is consumed, we have to put it in the nutrient analysis. Now, you may have some items and you're projecting seconds on, your school allows for seconds. You have to plan that. It needs to be in your projected. So make sure you put that in there, because you may have 100 kids that go through the line, but you had 200 that you were able to come through and get seconds on chicken nuggets. Because if you plan seconds, if you plan for seconds, if you have 100 kids going through the line and you plan for 100 kids or 50 kids out of those 100 kids to come back through the line and get seconds on chicken nugget, you are preparing it for them to have seconds. We have to put that in the nutrient analysis. But if, say, you have 100 kids come through the line, and you prepared 110, and 100 kids came through the line, just to have enough, just in case some kids forgot their lunch that normally don't eat, and they just come through, you're not really planning for seconds, you just kind of prepared a little bit extra, then we won't put that in the nutrient analysis. But if you are preparing for seconds, we put that in the nutrient analysis. So I just want you to be aware of that, and you do need to have that on your production records. So, because not just that, what needs to happen is your inventory and your production records and your invoices all kind of need to match. So if you're buying 50, let's say you're buying 10 cases of pineapple, and on the production record, you're telling us that you're opening 10, but you're really opening 15, or you went and had to open extra. Put that on there, because again, we use it as a recipe. You need to go back through and be like, because what's going to happen is the next time you go back to be like, now how many number 10 cans did I open the last time? You're going to open up 10. And then you're going to realize, because you didn't add the other 5, that you might be short again. So just make sure if you do add anything in the middle of service, you go back and add it to your production records. So I just want to kind of reiterate that, because we have to know what you are serving. So now let's talk about the salad bar production record. And I'm going to talk about salads in general, but this is if you have a salad bar. So if you have a salad bar, you do need to have a production record for that salad bar. Each day, it must reflect the exact food items served on the salad bar. And this is what gets a lot of people in trouble, is because they don't put the exact food items out there. And I'm going to give you a little bit of helpful hints that I gave some schools that I had in the past. But again, if you have items that are on the salad bar and not on your production record, that's an issue. Because again, if you have a salad bar and we do a nutrient analysis, we have to know every exact item the child ate. So if the salad bar is an extra, you do not count those items towards your subgroups. It's just an extra food item. Even if it's an extra, again, if a child consumes it, we have to put it in a nutrient analysis if we have to do one. So I'm just letting you guys know, we mean business. If a kid consumes it, it has to be written down someplace of what it was and how many had it. And then calories, sodium, and fat served on the salad bar would also go into your nutrient analysis. But I will tell you, if you have to be honest, if you on your salad bar have a lot of fruits and veggies on there, granted you'll have dressing, especially ranch, items like that, it will help with your nutrient analysis. It really will. So don't be afraid of putting some of that stuff out there. Now, if you get a lot of high fat items and stuff, it will, like your cheeses and stuff, and some of your dressings. But honestly, your salad bar can really help your nutrient analysis, again, if we have to do one. And some people have had to have them. So again, we have it, and we may have to go back to that someday. I kind of really wouldn't be surprised if we did. I actually miss doing nutrient analysis. I think it was great for you guys. And the consultants are going to kill me for saying this, but I've told some of my schools when I was in the field that if you are curious of where you're at and you don't have a program, you don't have a nutrient like NutriKids, if I had some downtime and they gave me other labels, I had no problem kind of filling it out and letting them know where they were for the week. But again, it's if we had time and stuff like that. But I really do, it was my least favorite thing to do during a review, but it was one of my favorite things that we did as well. On my end, it was the worst part to do, but I liked at the end, you could see actually where you were at, because a lot of schools were actually low in calories on high school kids before the new meal pattern. So just keep that in mind. Very rarely do we see you guys over fat. We had some people, but not as much as you would probably think. So salad bar production record. Make sure you put the date and tell us how many students or people you think are going to go through that line. And then in the meal contribution, and in this example, the salad bar is if your salad bar is after the point of service, it needs to be an extra. The only way that it can be a part of your fruit or vegetable component is if it is done before the point of service. Because if it's after the point of service, they already have to have a reimbursable meal before they go. So if you're going to be an extra, if it's after the point of service, then just make it an extra. But if you want it to count towards your vegetable component or your fruit component, then at that point, you do need to mark on here which components. It could be both. And then you have to let us know how much vegetable they have to get off of the salad bar or how much fruit. So it could be a half a cup, it could be a fourth of a cup, because someone has to monitor that they're getting that amount. I've been to some schools and they would make them go back and be like, you didn't get enough vegetable from the salad bar, you have to go back and get more. And it depends on what you put in this category right here. If you put vegetable a half a cup, then the kids have to have a half a cup, and you have to kind of watch to make sure that they get that amount. So this is the production record, and we have in column A, the item that was put on the salad bar. Now, if you're one of these people that every day you put romaine lettuce, every day you put tomatoes, every day you put carrots, every day you put ranch dressing, go ahead and list them on there. But if you have seasonal items, I've had some that are like, yeah, we do some seasonal items. You can put it on there as well, but you have to leave it blank if it's not served that day. But if you do have items that you serve daily, go ahead and put them on here and then make a photocopy of that, of just with column A filled out. And then you can fill in the rest, because it is less work for you to do. If every day you put romaine on there, every day you put tomatoes, every day you put carrots, go ahead and fill that out and then photocopy that, and then you can fill out the rest of the columns. So that's just a little bit less you have to fill out. I'm going to think about putting this in Excel. That might also help. That way you can list all the items that you do serve, and you can just print out that sheet and just fill out the columns that you need to if you served it that day. That might also be very helpful for you, because I understand within a year you may serve 100 items on your salad bar, and you don't want to write every day 25 items that you actually put on the salad bar. So I'm going to try and put this in Excel, and that way you can literally list everything, and then you can print that out, and then you can fill out columns B, C, D, and E the day that you do that salad bar. Just print out, you would just fill out those columns if you actually had it on the serving, on the salad bar. And again, you must have temps. So we do have a temp column on there. Again, this salad bar is just an extra, so everything is marked as with an X for extra. And this form does kind of make me laugh a little bit, but in column D, you put the total quantity that you put out there. So in this case, they put 10 pounds of romaine, they put 5 pounds of tomatoes, and they put 3 pounds of baby carrots, and then so on and so forth. In column E, it tells us how much food did you have left over. And then column E is how much did you use. So essentially, if you add D and E together, you'll get column C. Now, talk to your consultant about this. I told mine, that's why I'm bringing it up, because I told mine just fill out one column, E or D. I can figure out the rest. So if you served 10 and you had 5 pounds left over, then I know that you served 5 pounds. So your consultant may not have an issue with that, but you may just ask them first if they do. And then in column C, we see this mostly used in salad bar, and you do need to let us know what you did with the leftovers. So in this instance with the romaine, they're using it the next day. On strawberries, they had 5 pounds. They only had a half a pound left over. They may be getting old. You know, they're towards the end. They maybe got mashed because kids were digging in there. So they just discarded it. So please let us know if you have leftovers on your salad bar, what you did with those leftovers. So let's go through the columns as well. Again, at the very top, the date, that salad bar that was served. Again, if you did not serve it on the salad bar that day, don't put it out there. You can't list it on there if you did, or don't fill out the columns of how much you put out there if you didn't serve it that day. Planned number of students in salad bar to go. How many people do you think you're going to go through? And in this case, they're saying they think 100 kids or 100 people are going to go through the salad line. And again, if you use it as a fruit or vegetable component, at that point up there, you would tell us what you would mark it the box, and then you would tell us how much, half a cup, a fourth of a cup, how much do they have to get to be part of the component, and it must be monitored. Someone has to sit there and be like, nope, you didn't get enough, go back and get more vegetable. Nope, you didn't get enough, go back and get more fruit. You have to monitor it if you are going to use the fruit and vegetable component as part of the reimbursable meal. But if not, it can just be an extra. And most people, I would tell you, just make it an extra. So again, in column A, you put the item, the time and temp, and then in C, the contribution. And in this case, because it was after the point of service, everything is an extra. If it was before the point of service, then you would need to let us know what you were using it as. So total quantity. So in D, again, you list the total quantity that you put out there. And E is the quantity that you have left over. And F is how much you used. Again, G, please list any comments. For instance, did you discard it? Are you using it the next day? What did you do with any leftovers? So what if your school district does prepared or prepackaged salads? Do you have to keep that salad production record? And the answer to that is no. But what you do, there's two things that you can do. If you make prepared or boxed, prepared, already done, the kids just come through the line and they grab the salad and walk through the line. There's two things that you can do. One is you can create a recipe. So maybe you have a Caesar salad recipe and you list everything on that recipe that goes into that salad. Maybe you do a Cobb salad recipe, or you have salad 1 recipe, salad 2 recipe, however you do your salads, how many you serve, just create a recipe. And on your production record, you'll put salad and then put your recipe number, and then tell us on your production record, your big one that we talked about first. Then you will put on there how many that took that salad. You'll just tell us the number that you're planning on. Kind of like with your chicken nuggets, they were going to take 5. You had 250 kids taking it. You'd put salad bar in the recipe number. You'd put recipe salad. You put Caesar salad, and then you may say that 50 kids are taking that salad. So you can do a recipe, but make sure you write a recipe down, because we're going to ask to see a copy of your recipe. Because again, any recipes, and a reminder, everything, if anything has 2 or more ingredients, it needs to have a recipe. So we need recipe cards. Because again, if we do a nutrient analysis, we have to have everything that's in there. The other thing that you can do is, and I have some people that do this, if they use a production record, the big production record, and list all the items that they served for that salad. Maybe you are set up at your school to where you have kind of like I'm thinking like Subway, where kids come through and be like, I want lettuce. It's kind of a created salad bar. You can use the big production record. And this is an example. I mean, I didn't change the chicken nuggets and stuff, but you could put romaine lettuce, how much lettuce you used, how much chicken you use. Say you're doing a chicken Caesar salad, how much cheese you're used, how much salad dressing as a total. You can do that as well. I personally think the easiest way is to do a recipe, but sometimes what you may do is kind of have like that Subway line where you have someone back there serving the kids, so you know it's proportioned well, but you have every day you may have different items. Like one day you're doing a Caesar salad line, one day you're kind of, it's geared towards Caesar salad, one day it's more like a Cobb. So you can do one of either way. Again, but these are if they're pre-packaged, that they're already either coming through, or you're doing just a complete salad bar line that's being manned, that you kind of man it yourself, and it's like it's its own line. So those are the 2 ways that you can do those type of salad bar. You don't have to do the one that we told you to fill out for salad bar if it's pre-packaged. So this is some additional production record information. Again, I just want to remind you guys, from what I'm hearing, that all forms must be maintained daily, by month, at each site the food is prepared. All records must be kept on site at the approved location. So it's at, usually the approved location is at your eating site. Now you may have, I've been to some schools where they have 5 cafeterias and one person is essentially over everything, and they like to have all the production records at their office when you're done. That's fine. But records cannot go home. Records need to stay at the school. We see that sometimes when we show up and like, oh, I'm sorry, I took the production records home with me. Well, there's no reason to take the production records home. They need to be at the school, and they need to be readily available when we come out to do a review. And what people sometimes also forget, if you contract meals with, say, a Head Start program, we at any time can come to the school to look at your production records, because you're the ones that created their meals. And I've done that. I've been at a Head Start, and the delivery meal receipts weren't filled out correctly. So I went to the school district, and when I went there was no production records being maintained because they were not for review that year. So if you contract meals out, we can come out at any time. But if you contract meals out to a Head Start, if someone contracts with the school district, we can go to the school district to look at the production records. So just an FYI on that. Something else that we've been seeing, again, is that you must have a production record for each meal service. So that means if you do breakfast or lunch, they each have their own production record. If you do snack, it has its own menu as serve form. Now, if you do CACFP, you can use the National School Lunch Form. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out. If you participate in At Risk, you can use the school production record for your supper program, for At Risk, for your breakfast. Use this. I would suggest it, to be honest, because you know how to do that form. What you can't do is we have a CACFP menu as serve form. That's the production records for our daycare centers. You can use that for your supper program if you're on CACFP, and you can use that if you serve snack on CACFP, but you cannot use the CACFP form for the school lunch program because it does not have the required information that is required by USDA on that CACFP form. But you can, if you do At Risk, you can use your school production record to do your supper program. And I suggest it because you know the form. So instead of having to learn a whole nother form, just use your school production record for your supper. So any production, again, we have our production records on CM 71 and CN 75. The state, that's our state agency form, and it has all the required USDA, all the requirements that are needed per USDA. If your production record does not have all the same information as the one in our manual, then you need to get approval from your consultant to use that form. If you're just not sure, just ask your consultant, just get a copy of it and send it to him and say like, hey, this is what we're using as our production record. Is this okay? If you use NutriKids, yes, it is. Actually, NutriKids is much more detailed. We had a conversation with NutriKids several years ago, and they said they created that production record for Oklahoma specifically. So, because we're like, man, NutriKids has a lot of information on here. And they're the ones that told us that we told them to do that, which no one remembered telling them to do that, but they may have cleaned it up some, but NutriKids is fine. It is approved by the state agency, and a lot of people have been using that for years. So here is just a little bit more information just to throw it out there. I like to remind everybody, if you are interested in having recipes, new recipes, going through the recipes, make sure you check out Team Nutrition. They have recipes out there all the time. We don't really do the books anymore. I remember the big old book that you used to get. Keep those. Definitely the recipes are excellent. But they have, in a couple of months ago, they did a lot of new recipes. So I think they update it quite often. So go out there if you're interested in more recipes or anything new that you want to serve, something different, that see if the kids like it. Something else, when we talked about the food buying guide earlier today, you may not be aware, but we do have a new food buying guide app. It's actually been out for a few years. I just wanted you to be aware of it in case you are interested in it. If you didn't go to the food buying guide overview, you can go here. It works on tablets, iOS, Android. It works on everything. So you can download it. It's a great little app. I suggest it. If you are interested in any additional trainings, Team Nutrition and the Institute of Child Nutrition are excellent sources. The Institute of Child Nutrition, that's all they do is do trainings for child nutrition programs. That's all they do. If you go to theicn.org or go to our website under training information upcoming, we have instructions out there. We have instructions of how to get out there and how to find any training imaginable. They have stuff on finances. They have stuff, I'm sure, on production records. They have stuff on, they have a food buying guide one, a big food buying guide one. We put instructions out for that one specifically as well. So it's a great resource if you're needing more training hours. You will get a certificate when you complete them. And then also for us, if you ever are curious of what trainings we have going on, always go out to the CAR system, because the minute we decided training, I put that information out on CARS even before we email it out. So we always have trainings. It's always going to be in trainings info upcoming. We put our links in there, or we have our OK Edge Next Thought. We have a lot of self-paced trainings. Again, you can find, we have one that just says OK Edge Next Thought instructions. When you open it up, it will have like 5 or 6 topics at the top. So that's how you know what to search for. Some that have to have a code. We have a couple, like our civil rights and ABVM have a code. So that's why they are separated out by themselves with instructions. But again, go out here, any trainings that you may need from us, then you have trainings from ICN. So if someone says, I can't get my training hours in, you have plenty of opportunities from us and from ICN or Team Nutrition to get that in. I think Team Nutrition does a webinar once a week as well. If you also have any questions, you can always call our office. Again, we are still teleworking. So we're in and out. I think we're supposed to transition back in March and April, the whole state agency. Call your consultant as well. It's on page C3 of the compliance document. You just look for your county, and then you can have your consultant's address and phone number. Now, there are a couple of counties, Comanche and Tulsa have 2 consultants in it if you're new, and Oklahoma has 4. But again, you can reach out to the office. Another great way to get a hold of us is this nslp@ste.ok.gov. It's our entire child nutrition school side team. They all have access to that email. It's manned all the time. There's probably, I think, 5 or 6 people that have access to it. So that's the safest place to send anything, duns, questions, anything like that, that's always being watched no matter where we're at, teleworking or not. We are checking our voicemail, but I'm just saying be patient because we are teleworking. So we're in and out and we do check our voicemails. But I think the NSLP at sde.ok.gov is the best way to get hold of us. So thank you guys so much for coming today. Thank you, Karen John, for helping me out. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this helpful. We just had a lot of concerns this year, which I know we have in the past, and especially if you're new, but we've had a lot of questions. People are finding that schools are not keeping paperwork because they think it's not required because of COVID. There is no break from any of the requirements. The only thing that we've had a break on was the low income report. We still haven't heard anything about that, but everything else has to go just like it was before.